What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. I ran across an article earlier today, right? And it was Bree Hall's father. Bree Hall is a senior who played at South Carolina. She played for Don Staley. Bree Hall, very good basketball player. And like I said, she's a senior, and now she's getting ready to move on from South Carolina to the WNBA. And so Bree Hall father sent a message to Don Staley, and which I thought was cool, right? And so the message basically says, let me see if I can oh, we thank you so much for pouring into Breezy and giving her the opportunity to play there. Let me see. We are forever grateful, right? And so, I just think that I thought that it was cool. I thought, because when coaches and recruiters go to people's houses and they sit on their couch and their sofa and stuff like that, and they tell you, that they're going to do this for your son or your daughter, and um, they give you that big sales pitch and stuff like that, right? Because they want your kid to go to their school, because they think that your kid can help, their program, right? Which nothing wrong with that. Bree Hall was highly recruited because she's a very good basketball player. So coming out of high school, it's only natural that she'll be highly recruited like that. And so, but as a parent, that is a tough decision to make. Um, to trust your kid, your son or your daughter to somebody. Like I said, that it's some of it's sales pitch, and then but you want to send your kid with somebody or entrust your kid with somebody that you can really, that's going to really watch out for your kid. And from the sounds of this letter from Brian Hall, or this statement from Brian Hall, Bree Hall's father, sounds like he was very pleased with the decision to send, let his daughter to go there. That's your kid is like, that's precious cargo. You are entrusting your kid to to a coach and a university, and no matter what happens on the court, you want to make sure, number one, that your kid is safe, and number two, you want to make sure that they get their education and have a positive experience at that school. And so a lot of times, and in most cases, I would think that like the kid have positive experiences. College is a place where kids, they experience things that their first time away from being home. They have a little bit more freedom, but then they still have just enough supervision, whereas though they don't go too far, hopefully off the rails. And so it's a scary time for mainly the parent. I remember like when my daughter went away to college, she went to down in school in Florida. That was her first school. She went to a JUCO in Florida to play basketball. And and we from Maryland. So I think Florida probably is like about 14 hours away from us. That's a 14-hour drive. I think, and only I forgot how long the flight was. But I think I drove down there one time. But anyway, like the kids excited to get away from home. So it's really, they know, they're excited. They want to get away from home, and and kind of like spread their wings and do their own thing for a little bit. But for the parents, you're not used to the kids being, you're not used to them being gone. That's gonna be your first time as a parent, like not having that kid with you, or being able to um, monitor them as close as you used to monitor them. So that's a hard decision for a parent, you know. And like I said, when you get an opportunity to hear about these coaches who do good things for your kids or help turn your son or your daughter, help their development into adulthood. I think that's good. And some coaches like Don Stanley have that reputation of, you know, making that bridge for helping your kid bridge from uh from a young adult to an adult, and that's I think that's a positive thing. I think that needs to be commended. Who else? You had I remember Don Staley, she was at what school was that? In Pennsylvania. Temple with John Chaney, and John Chaney also had a good reputation with with kids and stuff like that, and being able to not just teach them the game of basketball, but also be a mentor and a role model. John Thompson, he was like that at Georgetown. Then you had let me see, Dean Smith, Mike Krzyzewski, um, and not just the coaches that everybody know, but it's a lot of coaches out there, a few coaches out there that people, that people may not be as well known as some of these coaches, but they do a good job with that, as far as helping your kid just grow and develop in the way that you want them to. Every once in a while, you might have, a kid may have like a bad experience at college. Um, but for the most part, this is what you want. At the end of your kid, their 4 years at the college or however long they stay at the college, this the kind of letter that you want to be, you want to be, or this the kind of statement that you want to be able to make, you know, to a coach. I know that I had that opportunity. My daughter, like I said, she went to a JUCO, a junior college down in Florida for her first 2 years of school. Then she went to for her Virginia State for her junior and senior year, right? And so, at her senior year, they do like senior day, and then the parents get to go, and they honor the parents and stuff like that. And and so, and then so we did the same thing for my daughter's coach, because we saw the maturity in her, and we knew that she had a very good experience at college. And so, I just think that's a good thing, man. It's just a good it's good experience for the parents, and it's a good experience for the kids. You get to like I said, it's hard to entrust the safety and the development of your kid to somebody else, and even to this day, my daughter, she is close to her coach. She had a female coach down in Florida. And so from time to time, and this was probably like, she's been out of college probably for about, let me see, almost 10 years, I think now. Yeah, about 10 years. She's been out of college for 10 years, but she still, will go down to the college, and, because of the relationship she built with that coach, she'll still go down there and visit that coach. And or she'll call that coach and go to a few games down in Florida, which I thought, I think that's cool. You develop those type of relationships as a young person with people who are people, who somebody who you respect, and somebody who you consider to be a mentor, somebody who you can talk to from time to time. I thought that was, I think that's cool. She don't really although she had a good experience at Virginia State, she's not as close to the guy who coached at Virginia State as she is the lady who coached down at Florida State. I mean, that coach down in Florida, right? But the young lady, the coach down in Florida, I even like that lady. I don't even know her name. My daughter and my ex-wife know her name, but I even liked her because as a female coach, she was able to mold my daughter and to she didn't take no stuff off my daughter, and that's what I really liked about it. She didn't, she ain't put up with no stuff, and she earned my daughter's respect. And and she brought the best out of her, for the 2 years that she had her. And so, yeah, man, that's why I just thought that statement from Brian Hall, Bree Hall's father, I just thought it was cool. And like I said, I think that's the type of statements that all parents who send their kid away for college to to play basketball and pursue their education. That's the kind of statement that at the end of their 4 years or however long they stay at your college, your university, that's the kind of statement that you want to be making, man. And so yeah, man, that's kudos to Dawn Staley, kudos to the young lady, Bree Hall, and Dawn Staley made a statement too. Let me see if I can find her statement because I thought Dawn Staley's statement to Bree Hall was cool. Just to let her know that she appreciate everything that Bree Hall brought to the table and contributed to her team, right? So let me see. Your 4 years may not have always been easy, but you stayed true, Breezy, and it's beautiful to see. We can't wait to see what's next for you at the next level. And you know what I mean. So that's cool. Um, and you see those young ladies who graduate from uh, Don Staley's program at South Carolina. You see like Asia Wilson um, come back. What's the other? Aaliyah Boston. You see her come back, and they want to see Dawn Staley continue to thrive and continue to be successful. So, it comes back. It's two ways. These kids appreciate what you do. And then when they're in a position to do something for the university, that's how you get alumni and stuff like that. You know what I mean? People just be so happy for what you poured into them, and now they want to pour back into you. And so yeah, that's a good thing. And so that's just my take on it. I just thought that as a parent who sent his kid away to college, I just thought that was I could really identify with that. I just thought that was a cool statement made by Bree Hall's father, Brian Hall. And so that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let me see. With that being said, don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.